Okay, step by step, I'm going to take you through the development of the movement structure during 0 to 12 months. Now, this should already be there when the child is born. At the same time, development is these planes establishing themselves in space and establishing that child as its own unit of structure apart from the earth, and just developing and being able to separate itself from the earth. So jumping into this first part's going to look simple just to give you some orientation of it. It's going to end up looking a little bit more complex. There's going to be a lot of dots. Hopefully that won't be too much. But starting off your simple, working with that. So the first thing is you're sleeping and lying down milestone, and that's working with the horizon plane. So when we're doing that, coming here with the horizon plane, we work in units of time. And so each of these numbers are a time unit of measure. And so just to help you get oriented here, we're going to work in 1 time unit of measure. And so coming here, we're going to create the horizon plane. This is associated with the sleeping and lying down milestone. And so it's going to come here. Do the horizon plane. So we're going to come here and create a horizon plane here. And we're going to color code it red. And this is the plane being developed when this milestone is happening in the body. And you can see over here, we get the mathematics of it, which is sweet, of what that plane is, our units of measure being time. So we're just going to take this and give it a color here. And then next, we're going to do the tummy time plane, and I call that the driving plane. Like you're driving a car. So it's going to come here and intersect with the horizon plane. Now, these intersect points are really important mathematically for what's being set up in the system. And when tummy time is being established and worked on, this plane is the main movement plane that is being established in the body. And our planes need to intersect at these exact mathematical points. And that blue here. And then the last plane is the front and back plane. And so it's going to come here and go through the front and back of our circle here. This is like a puzzle. This is like creating the outsides of a puzzle. Okay, and working from the inside out. But this puzzle, the edges of the puzzle grow with time with every year of development. These 3 planes will be established every single year, going to each unit of time to be worked on. And so we're going to take this front and back plane, we're going to color code it here and make it green. Now, something I want to emphasize with all this, when this is happening, all the movement must come from the center. And if you look at these planes, they all intersect at the center. And this is what makes movement optimal. The most efficient is it's all coming from the center of the structure. So the front and back, the looking at you plane is the front and back plane. That's the 3rd milestone, is looking at you. And this is the beginnings of development. This is developing your orientation in place. The horizon plane takes the movement structure and orients top from bottom. The driving plane orients front from back. The front and back plane orients right from left or side to side. And so going through this, what's really nice here is we get some mathematics, okay, of these planes. We have our horizon plane, driving plane, front and back plane. But now we're gonna go in and we're gonna keep developing. Now this is where it looks a little bit more complex with all these lines, but I wanted to first just establish those first three planes so you could look at this, okay? And you can see here that I have my first three planes. And as we go on into the rolling over plane, we need to develop our horizon cross planes. We have a front cross plane and we have a back cross plane. So if I'm orienting myself here to the horizon plane, it would look something like this if I'm looking straight on at it. But if I come here from the top and we're looking at the horizon plane, okay, we've got our front and we're back and our back. And then coming here and looking from the side, it's creating a cross plane through the horizon plane, a horizon cross plane. And what's really important about this plane is that it is at a 45-degree angle to the horizon plane. And so this is rolling over as you're working with it. So our next milestone is grabbing the feet, and that is the driving cross planes. And as we put in those driving cross planes, we're just going to show it at each angle here. Okay, so that's looking at it from the front. Looking at it from the side, it's really similar. Okay, but if we come here and look at it from the top, our driving cross planes are creating a 45-degree angle to the driving plane, a driving cross plane. And here my angles are accurate because I've measured those. So now something really important to note here as these mathematical planes are setting up, we get this intersect point between the driving cross plane and the horizon cross plane. So this is rolling over is the horizon cross plane, grabbing the feet is the driving cross plane. So rolling over is red, grabbing the feet is this light blue. But this intersection point allows for our next milestone to set up optimally, which is independent sitting, and it goes into the horizon peripheral planes. That's what's developed next in the movement structure. That's what's worked on. It's being able to work with our peripheral more. And this intersect point is really important because as we're working with this and we're coming from the center, we need to be able to start interacting more so with forces, not just rotational forces, but linear forces, and being able to follow Newton's law. For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction in linear force and in rotational force. But in these particular planes, it's having linear interaction where it happens, but turning it as quickly as possible into a rotational interaction because that's more efficient. And so here, as we're working with it, you're going to see here how I'm going to come from my center, and this force interaction is actually going to start creating the movement structure's ability to grow and interact with the layer above it. And so as I put these in here, again, I'll show it to you at different angles. But if you look at this, this is intersecting perfectly through that rolling over plane and that grabbing the feet plane. Okay, so looking at it straight on, create something like an X even from the side. Okay. And I originally thought this was a 45-degree angle, but it's not. It is a 35.26-degree angle, though that's not necessarily necessary. But having intent and focus, if you want to be that technical, you can. And just just help help you in working with your child. But here now, as we're doing that, this is allowing us to be able to come from the center and create a movement force out, even a linear one within ourselves out, and interact with something and create a rotational force interaction. And so it goes into our horizon peripheral planes. And still working with independent sitting here. I'm gonna put up our horizon peripheral plane. So when movement is coming out, we need to be able to work with our peripheral. And looking at this straight on, it's hard to see the horizon plane peripheral interaction. It just looks like a straight line, even from the side. Okay. But if you come and look at this from the top, in orientation to our horizon plane, we're having a horizon peripheral interaction. And so it creates something like this. And going into our next milestone, now that's been established and worked on. Now we're going to go into the coming to sitting milestone, which is our front and back cross planes. And that's establishing left to right. And you can see with that coming to sitting milestone, it also interacts perfectly with our rolling over plane and our grabbing the feet plane. And it harmonizes its interaction with the peripheral plane, with the peripheral horizon plane and the other planes that we're going to go into. But it's perfect synchronization. This is optimal. And next, after we get our coming to sitting, now we're going to work with the other two peripheral planes, the driving peripheral plane and the front and back peripheral plane. So first going to the driving peripheral plane after coming to sitting is going into all fours. And that is developing the driving peripheral plane. I'm going to put that up here. Now you can see here when I'm looking straight on with my structure, it creates an interesting construct as you're working with it. This is something that can visually help you as you're working with this milestone. You know, I'll demonstrate it in later courses, but looking at it straight on, you can see the rotational factor in there. Looking at it from the side, it looks like a straight line. Okay. Looks like a straight line. But looking at it from the top, first I want to come in here and just coming at the side, focus in on right here. You can see that I'm not creating another movement structure piece outside of my movement structure. I'm creating an orientational structure to other things that I'm interacting with. And so I'm just being able to come out in my peripheral plane. And at this point, I can create a driving plane interaction or a horizon plane interaction. Or a front and back interaction. We haven't done the front and back peripheral plane yet, but here looking at it from the top, yeah, you're seeing this kind of construct happening. So now for our next milestone, crawling, That's going to be the front and back peripheral planes. We're just going to add these in here. So now looking at it from the front, it looks like we've created a straight line. Okay, for our front and back peripheral planes. Look at it from the side. It's actually doing what our driving plane peripheral planes. You're seeing this little bump action going on. But now if we're looking at it from the top, you're seeing the interaction in space that's happening. So coming here and coming a little bit at a diagonal. At this point of interaction, as we're going into our peripheral interactions and force interactions, we just need to be able to pivot and work off of a movement plane. And so when we're first developing, this is what we're working on in the various milestones as we are developing. So now as we have this going on, got our orientation here. Now after our peripheral planes, we're going to go into our arch planes. And our first arch plane and our next milestone after crawling is the crawling reach milestone. And that's going to be the horizon arch planes. Now, it may be difficult to see the arch, especially when you see Michelle talk about arches, especially like in her diamond scale, you're only seeing part of the circle, and we'll see that more so in the box planes. But in reference to these arch planes that we're working with at our time unit of 1, we're getting something like this. And looking at it straight on, our horizon arch planes look like a straight line, but coming at it from the top, we're getting this flower look. And often when I'm working, I sometimes will only work on this flower part. Sometimes I come out here and work on this part depending on the need. But this starts creating a flower, for lack of a better word. And I'm still going to come in and put this in from the side just in case I ever need that. But still, our horizon arch planes look like a line. So now that is the crawling reach milestone. So when we're going into our reaching up milestone, we're developing our driving arch planes. And you can see this is getting complicated. It looks really complicated. But when you're building it one step at a time, it's a lot of simple that makes complex. And ideally, you're seeing the breakdown of that. So when we're looking at it straight on for our driving arch planes, this is what we get when we're looking at the movement structure straight on. When we're looking at it from the side, we end up having a line. And when we look at it from the top, we have a line there. But that is the driving arch planes. And next, as we're working with this, just trying to get it so you can see it all, is the in and out of standing milestone, which is going to be our front and back arch planes. And looking at it from the front, looks like we have a straight line, but here now as we come to the side, we're getting that flower look developing in the structure. Coming from the top, it's another straight line. So this is the working with the body's ability to project outward movement and to receive inward movement as we're working with these planes. But now we need to grow. And this is where the box planes come into play. It's establishing that a year of development has gone by. I'm setting in stone this layer of development of movement structure, and now I need to work on the next layer. So if this isn't setting up right, every year after that still isn't quite right, because the innermost part of my movement structure isn't quite set up like it needs to. Everything should be coming through the center. So that's why with movement lesson, when we're working with the foundational milestones and we're establishing the center and creating this exact mathematics at the foundational part of our innermost movements, it has a domino effect to everything else and just enhances it. And so now, standing with support, it goes into our box planes. And so working with that, this is where it starts to get a little bit complicated. So when we're working with, I mean, it all looks complicated, but this is where we're taking our horizon plane and then it projects out to create a box with that. So when we're working with our horizon box plane, it's actually going to come here to the top. Okay, so I'm going to give you this orientation from the top so you can see this develop. And it's creating a larger arch, a flower. Now, this would actually be creating a whole circle, but to show you the box, I didn't do that. And then you didn't see that part, but then I also made that on the bottom. So it projects out to go to the next layer, the next year of development. And so that's our horizon plane. It projects out from the horizon plane. And then we have our driving box plane, which is going to project out from orienting to the driving plane. So here we've got the driving plane. We're going to do our driving box plane here. And there you have it, but it's also going front and back here of our structure. So if I come here, make this straight, it's now creating this box. Okay, so our driving planes. And then the last one is our front and back box planes. And it's projecting out from orientation to the front and back plane. And so now here, as we look at the structure, we get our front and back box planes here on the side. So this is the development of the movement structure for the first 12 months of development. There are 13 milestones, but this is what's being worked on. This is what's being created and established in the body, and what allows that independence to just really take off for a child and start going into walking and really just advancing. And so these are the foundations. So there you have it, the development of the movement structure. I'm going to pull this over here so you can see some of the mathematics here. I'm going to do another video where I take the box planes and actually the peripheral planes and make actual circles for those specific mathematics, because we're going out into two units of time. This box plane went out to our second unit of time, so that we can grow and go into the next phase of development. And so that's something that I'll show here a little bit later, but I just wanted to at least show the box and have things make sense when I'm saying box plane versus having the circles and you're trying to imagine that. But here, this is showing us the mathematics of the various parts of the movement structure in units of time. And our circles are 3.14. Okay, so it's pi, it's infinite, or it should be infinite. If it's not, then you have a movement structure breakdown and a limitation in movement. Those are our front and back cross planes here. getting these mathematics in. Here's the driving cross planes. Horizon cross planes. And then again, our movement structure here. So there you have it here. It actually gave us this equation for the horizon plane, because I had put in other things to here to make all these little dots so I could build this structure. It didn't establish that as the first part of the equation, but there you have it. Should be the same thing. And that is our movement structure of development and the mathematics.